because Natalie, you are, and Michael, you too, but I'm saying this to Natalie since I'm seeing it for the first time in the new year. You are a great detector of bullshit. And there's just been a lot of it flying these days in these media streets. And it's one of the reasons why, and Michael and I, we haven't even really talked about it in depth. You know, it happened, it came out last week. The aftershocks are still being felt of the explosive conversation that Katt Williams had with Shannon Sharpe. But the reason why I know it's so fascinating for me, guys, is because it was needed in this moment. Like, I don't know, I think there was a lot of cap when it came to Katt's personal abilities. I don't know what's true and what's not as it relates to, you know, everything that was going on in Hollywood. But for me, it was more like, hey, I love listening to this man talk, number one. I love listening to him talk. I could listen to him talk for hours. I would visit, if not join his church or stream it online. I mean, the dude he is captivating. But beyond that, Natalie, I love somebody who has put in the work, who has grinded, who has not taken shortcuts, decide, you know what, and this is not me taking a shot at anybody else, I'm talking about his truth, decide, I'm not gonna sit up here and just let people lie. I'm not gonna sit up here anymore and just let people like speak falsehoods as fact. Like, enough of it. And I would add, several people in media right now are doing this and getting away with it. Because Natalie, the thing that scared the crap out of me is like, how much are people just going on, because everybody got a podcast. Yeah. How much are people just going on all these podcasts and these platforms and these shows, spewing lies, and nobody's checking them on it? Like, Katt Williams did us a public service, regardless of where the truth begins and ends. It was a public service to watch somebody say, hold on, that didn't happen, and I'm about to set the record straight. There needs to be more
I wrote the
records set
character.
straight.
I told you what clothes he was gonna wear and how he was gonna talk and what color was gonna be. I wrote the character. He doesn't write though. He doesn't write.
Because Natalie, even in your own life, how much have you just let stuff go, or how much have we just let go? Even if we don't realize we're letting it go. I'll stop rambling. Go ahead, Natalie. This is your thoughts on the aftermath of Katt Williams.
Well, no.
This new age.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was funny, you know, like to watch it, to listen to it, everything he was saying. And like you, I did appreciate him wanting to call bullshit on what was said, though I agree. There was a lot of capping coming from him. So it's funny to watch you call cap on others while you do it, or at least I think you were doing some of it yourself. But I am someone who likes to check people. I don't like things to go unchecked, right? Sometimes not to people's liking. Like, I like that he did that. And another thing I really liked about it, David Dennis Jr. had like a really, really great piece that he did for Anscape. But the fact that he was like going at his fellow comedians and other people in Hollywood and going at them, because a lot of times I feel like they look out for each other. Friends look out for each other. They don't say anything. And it's like kind of what they do to protect each other. And he doesn't care about protecting. He doesn't care about being ostracized. He's like, nah, I'm going to say what I have to say. And he protects the people who he thinks are real ones, right? He spoke up for Bernie Mac. He spoke up for others. I like what he said about Taraji, because I haven't heard that many people, not that weren't like other women, speaking up for her. So he hit a lot of things that I haven't seen other men with his fame, with his platform do. And I really appreciated that in the moment. So some of those things about it I loved. And then I loved all the different reactions we got to it, all the responses, whether it was in the post itself, whether it was rap bars from Luda to respond. Like he has like everybody just scrambling to put together some kind of response. And the fact that he knows his power, the fact that when he's on the show, he's saying, oh no, you're gonna get Oprah next after this. Cause Shay was scared. Like Shannon was like, he was a little shooketh. He was like, oh man, I don't know if I'm gonna have to show after this. Yeah.
He said he's gonna be canceled, and Katt was like, "No, it's the opposite."
Exactly.
It's the opposite. So, this is gonna be the greatest one.
I loved it.
He's right. I am a pro-black non-racist. Okay. But here's the thing, and Mike, we know this. Like, he spoke to some. This is why it's hitting on so many levels. As Natalie said, one, it's funny. He's just funny. He's funny sounding. Yes. He's got funny content. He just got great timing.
The great story.
But also, and Mike, we've had this conversation. He articulated some things that we have talked about with each other, but we haven't really gone full out in our industry. When he was so insistent on people who write, who, as he said, construct words for a living. And he wanted to call out the people who write and who've been on the grind, who are all about the craft. He knows all comedians, as he said. He has really studied comedians who are good at what they do. And some of the people who are promoted without putting the work in or without having the talent, without doing original work, it's hard for him to respect, and he's kind of aghast that these people are getting their flowers. So I'm with you. We know we've had this conversation, Mike. You know we have. So I'm all for it. If you're about the craft and you're serious about it, you have my respect, whether you're a comedian or journalist or a lawyer or anyone else.
And thank you for that, because I think even though the conversation was specific to Hollywood and comedy, it was universal. It was universal because it's like, you know, somebody who has put in the work that he has and who studied the craft the way that he has. Like, I hope, and for me, that was the best part. The best part of the conversation for me was not the drama, it was not the gossip, it was not the name dropping or the name checking or, you know, no, it was not. That was not the best part. I didn't say it wasn't.
That was part of it.
Fascinating.
It was entertaining.
To me,
but
the best part was a peek into his genius. Whether or not he read 3,000 books a year at age 8 or not, the peek into his genius.
I did the math.
Like, for example.
He did not. He did not.
Nah.
Or the encyclopedias. Come on.
That was tongue in cheek. I'm sorry. My delivery. That's 8 books a day. I was just like, you know. While you were a football star, while you were hustling, it's like he has different hours in the day than we do. Like, okay, but anyway, no. What I'm saying is, it's like there was one moment that I love, because I love process. I love people's process. I love a look into how they think and how they're wired. There was one moment in particular that I loved, among several, but one that immediately comes to mind was when they talked about the internet. And they talked about, you know, popularity that comes from the internet. He was like, no, it's actually the worst thing, because, you know, if I'm telling a joke and I'm telling it for an East Coast audience and then a Midwest audience and then a down South audience, that joke is being crafted and worked on, it's being sharpened, and then it becomes like, it was just like his thought process, or studying everybody else that he was going up against in an audition, saying, I know I'm funnier than this person, counting the laughs,
crossing them off the list too.
That was fascinating. He had so many. For all the mess and the messy headlines that came out of this, there were so many messages that are universal both to life and whatever arena you're in when it comes to work ethic. Like, what you cannot say enough about with this guy is that he has worked. And that's why he is literally standing on business, because he has handled his business and he has worked to get to where he is. And when he sees people that, like you said, Michael, that he does not think have done the work, or because he's done the work, he's an authority on what it takes to be good at this, man. So it was just there was so much more substance beyond the salaciousness, is what I'm getting at, that I hope people didn't miss, Natalie.
Yeah, I hope people, and people who are not in his weight class, hope they don't try to come at him, as he said, you ain't in my weight class. Or how about like going off, like, hey, Shannon, you missed it. My number one job is to be funny. So even when I'm checking somebody, I need to be funny, and he was. He was very funny, but as Mike said, the message is universal, no question.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there was a lot of deeper messages in there, so I agree with that. I don't know if that was the takeaway. I mean, I think it's fascinating. I think this is why
For me it was.
I think right. I think this is why this interview is going to keep being talked about for a while. You know, I think one of the kind of storylines I saw out of it that was not specifically about the actual substance, but kind of about the way the interview was handled, right? There was like some criticism of Shannon saying he was out of his depth, all of these different things. And I think that's sort of fascinating because I don't know that he's out of his depth. I thought it was unexpected. And both of you have a lot more experience than me. So I'm curious what you thought. Because like if you get...
Of Shannon?
Well, no, just like if you get an interview like that where someone comes on and like you're not expecting them to like come and unload the clip like that, and then they do, how do you handle it in that moment? Is it an opportunity for like a follow-up? It has 40 million views right now, right? And it's still going. So
a lot of them coming from me.
Yeah, you said you watched
right.
it twice. So like, do you just leave
3
it as it
times now.
is? Do you just leave it as it is and let the people keep talking? Or do you do something with it?
Okay, we could have this conversation. I hope we can have this conversation without anybody perceiving it as us hating. You know what I mean? Because it's like...
I genuinely
all right,
want to know. I'm curious.
Yeah, okay, good. All right. So going back to what I said a second ago, part of the reason I have those takeaways is because I watched it 2-3 times, and after you get past the P Diddy or the TD Jakes, I had 2 goals in Hollywood. You know, like once you get past all that, you start to kind of hear him. It becomes like, oh, okay, So I feel like I've studied this interview from both sides, because you know how grammar nerds like us, we look at billboards and we see misspellings, or we look at lower thirds and see misspellings, there's a comma missing. So when I watch an interview like this several times, absolutely, I've watched it from Shannon's perspective. I have a lot of respect for what Shannon has done. I'll say this, Shannon Sharpe is probably as good an interviewer as I am a football player. Now, he's not alone in that. He's not alone. I'm saying that sounds harsh. He's not alone. Shannon Sharpe sounds like me when I was younger interviewing. Like, there are a lot of people who are bad interviewers and they don't know it. They don't know that they're bad, okay? So Shannon Sharpe literally does not know what he's doing when it comes to interviewing. He's not as prepared as he thinks he is, and he has not yet learned to be an active listener and to follow up appropriately. That's an art and a science when it comes to interviewing that I have studied and taught, that Michael Holley has studied and taught, that we have done for 20 years, okay? So to look at Shannon Sharpe and critique his interview from the way that I would do it and I have done it, or people who know what they're doing has done it, like, just like Shannon has forgotten more football than I'll ever know, this is the inverse. This is my lane. This is Michael's lane. This is journalism. Having said all of that, Shannon Sharpe has built, at the risk of exaggeration, an empire, a minimum of brand that made Katt Williams not only seek him out to have this conversation, but comfortable enough. Katt Williams would probably, not that he needs anybody to make him comfortable. He's who he is wherever. But Katt Williams trusted and respected Shannon enough to deliver this on his platform. And so regardless of the technical aspects of Shannon Sharpe's interviewing skills, you cannot argue with the results. You cannot argue with what this man has accomplished in an arena that is not, he didn't go to school for this like we did. So him getting 40 million views with Katt Williams will be the equivalent of me deciding I'm gonna go play in the NFL right now and be successful at it. So did he fumble when it came to interviewing? Absolutely. Is that his ministry? No, not yet. He can get better at it. But for him to get this and all the other people that he's had come on his show, and for him to build the brand and the reputation that he has as a second act, cannot be commended enough. So I hope, Michael, that made sense that both things can be true. It wasn't a great interview, but it was still effective.
I agree with some of it, and I disagree with what you said too. I think it was successful. I think he did a good job.
I didn't say it wasn't.
I think he did a good job because of what it is. And you've heard, and you speaking of somebody who's taught it, okay, I'm going to quote the professor. I'm going to quote you. You said to your students, there are interviews and there are conversations. An interview is not necessarily a conversation. This was a conversation. This is a conversation with interview elements. And so he got exactly what he wanted. In most interviews, you're not sitting there chilling, drinking, okay, having a good time, you know, referencing some things that the audience, knows, and referencing things that the audience doesn't know. So this was for the format. For the format, he crushed it. He knocked. I mean, this was three touchdowns. This was 4 touchdowns in a game. I mean, it was unbelievable what he was looking for. He got
no 100% for who he is, for what the platform is, for who his guest is, what his guest wanted to get off. It was obviously a success. I never said, just like you never heard me say I won anything. I was the one leaving the house. Like, I never said it was not successful. And again, that's why I prefaced it by saying, can we have this conversation without being accused of being a hater? Because I'm happy for Shannon Sharpe. I pull for Shannon Sharpe.
Yeah, nobody's hating here.
Congratulations to him.
This is all love. All love.
This is a passion. Okay, you want to talk about the craft? I treat interviewing the same way Katt Williams treats comedy. Okay? And so I'm very serious about that craft. The same reason that Katt felt the need to set the record straight when it came to previous guests and what they said, we're all talking about what Katt Williams said. A skilled and experienced interviewer or conversationalist follows up differently, has different questions. Like, so yes, there was, and this is why so many people in this industry don't know what they don't know. And I'm talking about trained journalists, and I was one of them. Don't know what they don't know about interviewing, because we look at the results and we don't know what you could have gotten out of the conversation or the interview had you asked better, more strategic.
It could have been even more.
Right. So as brilliant as Katt Williams was, in many situations, he was brilliant in spite of the prompts or the questions or the comments, because there were infinite amount of times where he had to correct, confirm, or deny, or clarify something that was said, not what was asked, but something that was said. This is interviewing.
I want you to. Natalie, let me just say this quick. Now I'll just go right to you, just very quickly.
Yeah, no, of
I'll
course.
interject to what Michael said. Okay, late in the interview, remember where he's talking about all these kids. You know, you've adopted 7 kids and all this stuff. And he said, Shannon did, hey, you ever gonna get married, Katt? But he kind of threw it out there, and he kept going. So Katt was listening. He said, hey, Katt, I never asked you about marriage. He said, you don't, well, play the tape back. You sure did.
Yeah.
I didn't answer it.
Right.
So, I mean, he was doing both. He was storyteller, because, Mike, you know this. You want to get the interviewer in storytelling mode. He was in storytelling mode because that's who he is, but he also was listening to what was being asked of him. So he's a brilliant guy.
He's a brilliant guy.
My takeaway is I've slept on Katt Williams too much. He's a brilliant guy.
Oh, same.
Yeah, and the reason I asked, I really wasn't trying to like go at Shannon. I didn't think that you guys are either.
No.
It was because I'm hearing both sides, and I'm like, on one hand, if you ask more questions, and there were definitely some follow-up that could have been asked, you don't know what you could have gotten. But at the same time, you could have missed out on stuff because like he was just like on a flow, and he knew what he wanted to get out, and he knew what he wanted to say. And I wonder if you would have missed some of what did come out if you did that. So that's the part where like I'm back and forth. Like I see both sides, and I was just really curious what you both thought, because you both have been doing this for so long.
It doesn't have to be either or. Like he would have gotten what he got and more. Not exactly the same, because some of it was prompted by whatever Shannon said. Katt responded, but like there are ways to follow up without taking them off the track that they're on.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.